In the heart of a luxury safari lodge, where wealth dictated every decision, Marcus Sterling watched his wheelchair-bound daughter Emma approaching the elephant enclosure with pure joy in her eyes. What the 12-year-old didn't know was that her father had spent weeks carefully orchestrating this moment, deliberately weakening the safety barriers and bribing a handler to agitate Titan, the most unpredictable bull elephant in their private collection. The plan was perfect: an unfortunate accident, a tragic loss, and the inheritance would remain untouched. No more expensive medical treatments, no more pitying looks from his business associates, no more embarrassment of having a disabled heir to his empire. But as Emma wheeled closer to the enclosure, something extraordinary happened. Another elephant, an old matriarch named Luna, began trumpeting frantically, her ancient eyes fixed not on Marcus himself, as if she could see right through his cold facade to the darkness lurking beneath. Before we begin, if you, like us, believe in the incredible bond between animals and humans, please subscribe to our channel now so you don't miss any heartwarming stories. Thank you. The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured grounds of Sterling Wildlife Haven, a name that had always struck James Matthews as ironically misplaced. Through his groundskeeper's cottage window, he watched Emma's silver wheelchair glinting as she made her way to the elephant enclosure for her daily visit. Her father's tall figure loomed behind her, a sight unusual enough to make James pause in his morning routine. Marcus Sterling rarely showed interest in his daughter's activities, let alone accompanied her on her rounds. Something about the way he walked measured steps with hands clasped behind his back sent a chill down James's spine. 13 years of working at the sanctuary had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now they were screaming that something was wrong. Luna's trumpeting split the morning air, different from her usual gentle greeting to Emma. James had never heard such urgency in the old matriarch's call. The sound drew him outside, work gloves forgotten on the windowsill. As he approached, he noticed Mike Peterson, the new handler, fidgeting with the enclosure's control panel. The man's shoulders were tense, his movements jerky and uncertain. Beautiful morning for a family visit, Marcus called out, his voice carrying that practiced warmth that never quite reached his eyes. James nodded politely, but his attention was fixed on Luna. The elephant was pacing, her massive form moving back and forth along the barrier that separated her from Titan's enclosure. Her behavior was odd. Normally, she would be pressed against the fence closest to Emma, trunk extended in greeting. "Dad, Luna seems upset," Emma said, concern threading through her voice. "Maybe we should check on her?" Marcus's laugh was too loud, too sharp. "Nonsense, darling. Mike assured me everything's fine. Isn't that right, Mike?" The handler jumped at being addressed, his "yes, sir" coming out as a strangled whisper. James watched as Mike's hands trembled over the control panel's buttons. Something was definitely wrong. Luna trumpeted again, this time raising her trunk toward Marcus, a gesture James had never seen her make before. Emma wheeled closer to the fence, her face pinched with worry. "But Dad, I've never seen her like this. She's trying to tell us something." James moved closer, noting how Marcus's pleasant expression flickered for just a moment, revealing something darker underneath. The man's fingers twitched at his sides, and his next words came out clipped. "Emma, darling, why don't you move a bit closer to Titan's enclosure? I hear he's been quite playful lately." The words seemed innocent enough, but James felt his stomach drop. Luna's trumpeting grew more insistent, and now other elephants in the sanctuary were joining in, creating a chorus of distress calls that echoed across the grounds. Emma's wheelchair stopped as she turned to look at her father, confusion clear on her young face. "Mr. Sterling," James started, taking a step forward. "Perhaps we should—" But before he could finish, a loud mechanical whir cut through the air. James whipped around to see Mike's hand on the control panel, his face ash-white. The barrier between Titan's enclosure and the visitor area was slowly lowering, and James could see the massive bull elephant's ears flaring, his head lowered in, a clear sign of aggression. Luna's trumpet turned into a roar of protective fury, and in that moment, James knew with certainty that this was no accident. The look of calculated satisfaction on Marcus Sterling's face told him everything he needed to know. This was planned, and Emma, innocent Emma, was the target. Time seemed to freeze as James processed what he was witnessing. The mechanical whir of the barrier continued its ominous descent, but before anyone could react, Luna's powerful trunk smashed against her enclosure fence with enough force to rattle the entire structure. The sound startled Mike, who stumbled back from the control panel, his finger slipping off the button. The barrier ground to a halt, still partially raised. What seems to be the problem here? Marcus's voice carried an edge of irritation that didn't match the gravity of the situation. Mike, I believe I gave you specific instructions about today's maintenance. Emma's wheelchair remained positioned between the two enclosures, her small hands gripping the armrests. Dad? The question in her voice carried years of unspoken doubt. James moved swiftly, positioning himself between Emma and Titan's enclosure. Mr. Sterling, we need to clear the area. Titan's showing signs of aggression. Nonsense, Marcus snapped, but his eyes betrayed him, darting between the control panel and his daughter. Emma, sweetheart, just a little closer to say hello to Titan. He's been so looking forward to meeting you properly. Luna trumpeted again, the sound reverberating through the morning air with such force that several birds took flight from nearby trees. Other staff members were beginning to emerge from various points around the sanctuary, drawn by the commotion. Sarah Chen, the sanctuary's veterinarian, came running from the medical building. What's going on? I heard. She stopped short, taking in the scene before her. Why is that barrier down? Titan's been showing aggressive behavior all week. James watched Marcus's facade crack slightly. This is a private family moment, he said through gritted teeth. Everyone needs to leave. Now. But nobody moved. In the staff quarters behind them, James could see faces appearing in windows, whispered conversations carrying across the morning air. Many of them had worked at the sanctuary for years, some even during the time when Emma's mother was alive. They knew this wasn't right. Mike had backed himself against the wall of the control booth, his face a mask of guilt and terror. I can't do this, he whispered, though in the tense silence everyone heard him. Mr. Sterling, you said nobody would get hurt. You said it would just be a scare. Marcus moved with unexpected speed, grabbing Mike's collar. Shut up, he hissed. But it was too late. Emma's voice cut through the tension like a knife. Dad, what is Mike talking about? What did you tell him to do? The look Marcus turned on his daughter contained something that made James's blood run cold. A mixture of contempt and calculation that had no place in a father's eyes. But before Marcus could speak, Luna let out another trumpet. This one different from the others. It was answered immediately by a chorus of calls from the other elephants, creating a wall of sound that seemed to shake the very ground. She knows, Sarah whispered, her eyes wide. Luna remembers. James glanced at her sharply. Remembers what? Sarah's voice trembled. The night Emma's mother died. Luna was there. She was the one who found her body at the bottom of the cliff. We all thought it was an accident, but she trailed off, horror dawning on her face as she looked at Marcus Sterling. The whispers among the staff grew louder, years of unspoken suspicions suddenly finding voice. James could hear fragments, always thought it was strange, the way he changed afterward. Poor Emma's mother. Emma's face had gone pale, her hands trembling on her wheelchair's controls. But when she spoke, her voice was steady. Luna's been trying to tell us something all along, hasn't she? That's why she always watches you, Dad. That's why she trumpets when you come near. Her voice broke. What did you do to Mom? The mask of Marcus Sterling finally shattered completely. His handsome features twisted into something ugly and foreign, a glimpse of the true face he'd hidden for so long. You're just like her, he snarled. Weak, sentimental, caring more about these beasts than your own family's legacy. But as he took a threatening step toward Emma, Luna acted. With one powerful motion, she snapped the lock on her enclosure gate. A trick she'd never shown before, but one that spoke of long observation and intelligence, far beyond what anyone had credited her with. The gate swung open, and Luna stepped out, her massive form positioning itself protectively between Emma and her father. In that moment, as Marcus Sterling's carefully constructed world began to crumble, the storm that had been threatening all morning finally broke. The first drops of rain fell from the darkened sky, and with them came the weight of 12 years of secrets about to be washed clean in nature's justice. The rain fell in heavy sheets now, but nobody moved. Luna stood like a living wall between Emma and Marcus, her presence both protective and accusatory. James knew he had to act fast. This moment of revelation was also their moment of greatest danger. Marcus Sterling was a cornered man, and those were always the most dangerous. Sarah, get Emma to safety, James commanded, his voice cutting through the drumming rain. But before anyone could move, Marcus let out a laugh that sent chills down everyone's spine. Safety? Where exactly is safe for her? He reached into his jacket, pulling out a folded bundle of papers. These maintenance logs tell quite a story, don't they, James? Every safety inspection, every repair record, all showing perfect maintenance. Except, he let the rain-spotted papers fall to the ground. They're all forgeries. Every single safety mechanism in this sanctuary could fail at any moment. Who knows? Maybe they already have. James felt his heart stop. The logs he'd been trying to locate for weeks, the ones that had mysteriously vanished from the maintenance office. Now he knew why. "You've been planning this for months," he said, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. The accidents waiting to happen, the compromised safety equipment. His mind flashed back to Emma's accident 3 years ago, the one that had put her in the wheelchair. That wasn't an accident either, was it? Marcus's smile was terrible. To behold, the viewing platform's collapse, a regrettable incident, though not quite as effective as I'd hoped. He looked at Emma with cold eyes. Insurance paid well enough, but still such ongoing medical expenses. Such a burden on the Sterling name. Emma's sob cut through the rain, but there was steel in her voice when she spoke. "You tried to kill me, just like you killed Mom." The accusation hung in the air, heavy as the storm clouds above. Sarah had managed to move closer to Emma, her hand protective on the girl's shoulder. The other staff members had formed a loose circle, their presence both witness and barrier. "Your mother was a fool," Marcus spat. "She discovered certain business arrangements, threatened to expose everything, the illegal trading, the endangered species sales, all of it. She had to be stopped." His voice turned almost contemplative. "It was so easy, really. A late-night walk near the cliffs, a moment of distraction. Nature can be so dangerous, don't you think?" Luna's trunk raised, making a sound unlike anything James had ever heard. A low, mournful call that seemed to carry all the grief of that long-ago night. The other elephants answered, their voices rising above the storm. Luna found her. "Sarah," whispered. "She stayed with Catherine's body all night, wouldn't let anyone near except—" Her eyes widened. "Except Emma. You were there too, weren't you, Emma? That's why you've blocked out so much of that night." Emma's hands went to her temples, her face contorted as long-suppressed memories surfaced. I followed Mom that night. I saw, she gasped as the memories crashed over her. "I saw Dad push her. Luna tried to reach her, but she couldn't get there in time. Then Luna came to me, hid me behind her until help came. Dad said I must have dreamed it, that I was confused, that the trauma of losing Mom had made me imagine things." Marcus's composure finally cracked completely. "You were supposed to forget," he roared. "You were supposed to be too young to remember. And now," he looked around wildly, seeing the witnesses, hearing the phones recording his confession. "You've ruined everything." Again, he moved with desperate speed, lunging not toward Emma but toward the control panel. James realized his intent a second too late. Marcus's hand slammed down on the emergency release button. Throughout the sanctuary, the sound of multiple gates unlocking echoed through the rain. "Let's see how well your precious Luna protects you when every enclosure opens," Marcus snarled. "When every stressed, agitated animal is suddenly free. How many recordings will matter then? How many witnesses will be left?" But even as panic erupted among the staff, something extraordinary happened. Luna stood her ground, and around the sanctuary, instead of chaos, there was purpose. The elephants moved with deliberate unity, positioning themselves near the other enclosures, their presence calming the potentially panicked animals within. They had been watching, learning, understanding, just as Luna had watched and learned. The day Catherine died, just as she had watched over Emma ever since, the elephants of Sterling Wildlife Haven had been far more aware than anyone had guessed. Through the rain, James could hear police sirens approaching. Someone, probably one of the staff watching from the buildings, and had called them. Marcus heard them too, his face contorted as he realized his final desperate plan had failed, just as all his others had. "This isn't over," he growled, turning to flee. But Luna's trunk shot out, wrapping around his waist with careful but immovable force. She would hold him, gentle but unrelenting, until justice arrived, just as she had held her vigil over Catherine's body years ago, just as she had watched over Emma all these years, waiting for the moment when the truth could finally emerge. In the sanctuary's medical building, wrapped in a warm blanket, Emma sat silent as Sarah tended to her. The rain continued its steady drumming outside, but inside, time seemed to move differently, gentler, as if giving her space to process the morning's revelations. Through the window she could see Luna standing vigilant, refusing to leave her post even after the police had taken her father away. "I remember now," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. "I remember everything about Mom and Luna." Sarah paused in her work, settling into the chair beside Emma. In the 13 years she'd worked as the sanctuary's vet, she'd never seen such pain and wisdom in a child's eyes. "Your mother was the one who rescued Luna," Sarah said softly. "It was before you were born." Emma nodded, memories flowing like the rain outside. "Mom used to tell me the story every night. Luna was being transported illegally, locked in a tiny crate. Mom found her during one of her investigative trips. She said," Emma's voice caught, "she said Luna's eyes held all the wisdom in the world." James appeared in the doorway, his clothes still damp. "The police want to know if you're up for answering some questions, Emma. But it can wait if you're not ready." "I want to tell you both something first," Emma said, her hands gripping the blanket. "About the day Mom died, Luna wasn't just there. By accident, Mom had discovered something in Dad's office, documents about animal trafficking. She'd gone to the cliffs that night to meet someone, a journalist, I think. She didn't know I'd followed her." Sarah and James exchanged glances. This was new information, pieces of the puzzle finally falling into place. "I was hiding behind the rocks when Dad appeared," Emma continued, her voice stronger now. "He and Mom argued. She threatened to expose everything, said she had proof. When he," her voice faltered, "when he pushed her, Luna tried to reach them. She'd broken out of her enclosure, somehow knowing Mom was in danger. But she couldn't get there in time. That's why Luna's always been so protective of you," Sarah realized. She wasn't just watching Marcus because she witnessed Catherine's death. She was keeping a promise. Emma nodded, tears flowing freely now. "After Mom fell, I was so scared. But Luna came to me. She shielded me with her body, kept me warm until morning. Dad was too focused on making Mom's death look like an accident to notice I was missing. When they finally found me, Dad convinced everyone I was confused from trauma, that I'd wandered out in distress after hearing about Mom's death. And the accident that put you in the wheelchair?" James asked gently. "I was starting to remember things. Having nightmares that were really memories. Dad must have noticed." Emma's hands moved to her wheelchair's wheels. "The viewing platform didn't just collapse. I saw him checking something underneath it the day before. I didn't understand then. But now," a soft thud against the window interrupted her. Luna's trunk pressed against the glass, her eye visible. Watching, protecting. The old elephant had kept her vigil for all these years, waiting for the moment when truth could triumph over deception. "Your mother told me something once," Sarah said, watching Luna, "about why she named the sanctuary Sterling Wildlife Haven. She said that despite your father's name being Sterling, she chose it because sterling means pure, genuine. She wanted this place to be a testament to genuine love and protection." Emma wheeled herself to the window, placing her hand against the glass where Luna's trunk rested on the other side. "Mom always said that animals remember, that they understand. More than we think. Luna remembered everything, didn't she? She was just waiting for the right moment to help me remember too." Through the gradually clearing rain, they could see police investigators documenting the sanctuary, collecting evidence from the control panel, photographing the maintenance logs that lay scattered and soaked on the ground. But more striking was what they saw beyond that. Elephants still positioned protectively near other enclosures, maintaining the calm they had created during Marcus's desperate final act. "You know," Sarah said thoughtfully, "in all my years studying elephant behavior, I've never seen anything quite like what happened today. They acted with such purpose, such coordination. Mom used to say that love was the most intelligent force in the universe," Emma replied, a small smile finally breaking through her tears. "That it could teach even humans a thing or two about protection and loyalty." As if in response, Luna's trunk gently tapped the window again. In her deep brown eye, Emma saw the same wisdom her mother had recognized all those years ago. But now, she saw something else too. A future, a path forward, a way to honor her mother's memory and fulfill her vision of what the sanctuary could be. "Sterling Wildlife Haven," Emma murmured. Mom was right about the name. It's time to make it truly genuine, a real haven just like she always wanted. Detective Laura Martinez stood in the rain-soaked control booth, her experienced eyes taking in every detail. The sanctuary had transformed into a crime scene, but unlike any she'd encountered in her 15 years on the force. Behind her, Titan's enclosure stood empty, the great bull elephant having finally calmed under the watchful eyes of Luna and the other matriarchs. "Walk me through it again," she said to Mike Peterson, who sat trembling on a plastic chair, his handler's uniform still, damp from the morning's chaos. Two other officers stood nearby recording his statement. "Mr. Sterling approached me 3 weeks ago," Mike began, his voice barely above a whisper. "Said he needed my help with a a special project. The money he offered, he buried his face in his hands. I didn't know he meant to hurt her. He said it would just be a scare, something to convince the board that Emma wasn't safe here anymore. James, standing in the doorway, felt his fists clench. Tell her about Titan, about what you've been doing to him. Mike's shame was palpable. Mr. Sterling had me agitate him, changing his feeding times, disrupting his sleep with noise, small things to make him aggressive. Then today, he swallowed hard. The barrier was already weakened. All I had to do was lower it at the right moment. Detective Martinez's pen scratched across her notepad. And the maintenance logs. Sterling had them forged months ago. James stepped in. He's been laying the groundwork for this, making it look like the sanctuary was becoming unsafe. But he didn't count on Luna. As if on cue, a gentle rumble came from outside. Through the booth's window, they could see Luna still stationed near the medical building where Emma rested. The old elephant hadn't moved from her post even hours after Marcus Sterling's arrest. There's something else, Mike said, his voice strengthening with resolution. Something about Titan that Mr. Sterling didn't know. Something I saw last week that made me start having doubts. The detective leaned forward. Go on. Late at night, when I was supposed to be agitating Titan, I saw Luna reaching across to him with her trunk. She was calming him down. Every time I got him worked up, she would find a way to soothe him. It was like she knew what we were planning, and she was working against us. James felt a chill that had nothing to do with his wet clothes. That's why Titan didn't charge immediately when the barrier lowered. Luna had been preparing him, hadn't she? Mike nodded miserably. She's been protecting Emma all along. Not just from Mr. Sterling, but from what he made me turn Titan into. I've never seen anything like it. Detective Martinez closed her notebook. We'll need you to make a formal statement downtown. The charges will be serious. Conspiracy, endangerment of a minor, animal cruelty. But your cooperation will be noted. As officers led Mike away, Sarah appeared in the doorway, her medical kit in hand. You need to see something, she said urgently. We've been reviewing the sanctuary's security footage. There's more, so much more. They followed her to the sanctuary's security office, where multiple screens showed footage from the past several weeks. On one, they watched Marcus Sterling methodically weakening the barrier. On another, Mike's late-night torment of Titan played, out in grainy black and white. But it was the third screen that held their attention. Night after night, Luna stood watch, her massive form moving between enclosures, trunk reaching out to both Titan and the security cameras, as if she understood she was documenting everything. She wasn't just protecting Emma, Sarah whispered. She was gathering evidence. These recordings, they show everything. The barrier tampering, the abuse of Titan, even Sterling's late-night meetings with Mike. Luna made sure the cameras caught it all. Detective Martinez stared at the footage in amazement. In all my years, I've never seen anything like this. It's like she was building a case. Catherine always said Luna was special. James murmured that she understood things on a level we couldn't comprehend. Now I wonder if we ever really understood just how much. Through the window, they could see Emma wheeling herself toward Luna, her small form dwarfed by the elephant's protective bulk. Luna's trunk gently reached down, wiping tears from the girl's face with a tenderness that belied her enormous size. You know what this means, Sarah said softly. Everything Sterling built, all his plans, his reputation, it wasn't undone by the police or by us. In the end, it was an elephant who brought justice to this sanctuary. Luna didn't just save Emma's life today. She avenged Catherine's death. The rain had finally stopped, and in its wake, a different kind of cleansing was beginning at Sterling Wildlife Haven, one that would wash away years of corruption and pain, making way for something new to grow in its place. As twilight settled over the sanctuary, James sat alone in the security office, surrounded by the soft hum of computers and the weight of what he'd discovered. After everyone else had gone home, he'd stayed, driven by a nagging suspicion that there was more to uncover. Now, staring at his laptop screen, he knew he'd been right. The hidden camera he'd installed 3 weeks ago, a tiny device disguised as part of the control booth's weatherproofing, had captured something the regular security cameras hadn't. He watched the footage again, his hands trembling as Marcus Sterling's voice filled the small room. The insurance policy is ironclad, Marcus was saying to someone off-screen. Once the girl is gone, everything transfers to me. No more trustees, no more oversight committee. Just like it should have been after Catherine's accident. James leaned closer, adjusting the audio. The timestamp showed this conversation had taken place just 2 days ago. A second voice responded. One James recognized as Marcus's lawyer, but the public story will be tragic but simple, Marcus cut in. A devastating accident at an aging wildlife sanctuary. People will blame the animals, of course. That works in our favor. Once public opinion turns against keeping dangerous creatures so close to civilization, selling the land to your development company becomes not just profitable, but practically a public service. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. And the elephants? Marcus's laugh was cold. Luna and her herd? There are plenty of hunting preserves that would pay well for the chance to offer their clients something exotic. James felt bile rise in his throat. He'd known Marcus was corrupt. But this was monstrous. He reached for his phone to call Detective Martinez, but before he could dial, a sound from outside made him freeze. Through the office window, he could see a figure moving through the darkness toward the elephant enclosures. The shape was familiar. Mike Peterson, who should have been in police custody. James reached for the radio to alert security, then stopped. Something wasn't right. Mike's movements were jerky, unnatural, and behind him, James's blood ran cold. Marcus Sterling, supposedly in a jail cell downtown, was walking close behind Mike, something glinting metallically in his hand. Quickly, James activated the sanctuary's silent alarm system, a new installation that would alert the police without tipping off intruders. Then he grabbed his phone and began recording. Keep moving. Marcus's voice carried faintly through the night air. You're going to finish what you started this morning. Then you're going to be found in Titan's enclosure. A tragic end to a guilty man. Mike stumbled forward. Please. I told them everything already. There's no point. Shut up, Marcus snarled. You think jail scares me? I have connections you couldn't imagine. Getting out was simple. Making you disappear will be even simpler. James watched in horror as they approached Luna's enclosure. The great elephant was already awake, her form visible in the moonlight. She stood utterly still, watching, but made no sound. A silence that seemed more threatening than any trumpet call. Open it, Marcus commanded, pressing what James now could see was a gun against Mike's back. Let's see how your precious Luna handles a real threat. Mike's hand shook as he reached for the control panel, but before he could touch it, a powerful beam of light cut through the darkness. James had activated the sanctuary's emergency floodlights from his computer. Sterling, James's voice boomed over the sanctuary's PA system. The police are already on their way. We have you on camera. It's over, but Marcus's response was a laugh that echoed across the grounds. You still don't understand, do you? None of you ever did. This was never just about Emma or Catherine or even the money. This is about power. About showing that in the end, man dominates nature, not the other way around. He shoved Mike aside and raised the gun, not at James's window, but at Luna. Let's see how legendary your protective powers are with a bullet in your brain. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. As Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger, Luna's trunk shot through the bars of her enclosure with impossible speed. But instead of attacking, she wrapped it gently around Mike, pulling him to safety with the same careful strength she'd always shown to Emma. The gun went off, the shot going wild as Marcus staggered, thrown off balance by Mike's sudden movement. And then, before he could recover, the night erupted into sound. Every elephant in the sanctuary trumpeted at once, a wall of noise that brought Marcus to his knees, hands clasped over his ears. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. James kept recording as Marcus tried to run, only to find himself surrounded by sanctuary staff emerging from the shadows. They'd been silently gathering, alerted by the silent alarm, waiting for the right moment. As Detective Martinez's car screeched to a halt at the sanctuary gates, James looked back at Luna. The old elephant stood calm and regal in the floodlights, her wise eyes fixed on the scene before her. In that moment, James finally understood what Catherine had always known. Luna wasn't just an elephant. She was a guardian, a protector, a being of intelligence and purpose that transcended human understanding, and she had just ensured that Marcus Sterling's reign of terror was truly, finally over. The morning after Marcus's final arrest, Emma wheeled herself through her father's office for the first time in years. The police had finished gathering evidence, leaving behind a space that felt hollow, its dark wooden panels and leather furniture stripped of their former intimidating power. Sarah walked beside her, offering silent support as Emma faced this long-forbidden room. Mom used to hate this office, Emma said softly, running her hand along the massive desk. She said it represented everything wrong with how Dad saw the sanctuary. as a business instead of a haven. Sarah watched as Emma opened drawers, searching for something only she knew. What are we looking for? There was a photograph. Emma's voice trailed off as she reached the bottom drawer, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled it open. Dad thought he destroyed them all, but Mom told me she hid one. She said if anything ever happened to her, I should look in the place where gold meets wood. Her fingers found a seam in the drawer's ornate golden trim, prying it loose to reveal a space behind. There, preserved in a simple silver frame, was a photograph that made Sarah's breath catch. The image showed Catherine Sterling, younger and radiant with joy, standing beside a baby elephant. Behind them, the sanctuary looked different, wilder, more natural. And there, unmistakable even as a juvenile, was Luna. That's the day they first met, Emma whispered, touching the glass. Mom was investigating illegal wildlife trafficking. She found Luna in a shipping container, barely alive. Her fingers traced the words written on the back of the frame. The day love trumped greed. The day our real family began. Sarah settled into a chair beside Emma. Your mother changed everything about how this sanctuary operated, didn't she? Emma nodded, her eyes never leaving the photograph. Dad wanted it to be a tourist attraction with trained performances and luxury accommodations. Mom saw what it could be, a true haven for animals who needed protection. A tear rolled down her cheek. Luna was the first, but not the last. Mom kept finding more animals in need, kept bringing them here, and Dad, he saw his vision slipping away. Sarah finished gently. Look at this, Emma said, turning the frame over. A yellowed newspaper clipping fell out, its headline stark. Wildlife trafficking ring exposed, Sterling Enterprises named in investigation. Sarah's eyes widened as she read. This article, it's dated 3 days before your mother died. She was gathering evidence, Emma said, her voice stronger now. Not just about the trafficking, but about everything. The illegal sales, the forged permits. She pulled out more papers from behind the photograph. She hid it all here, where she knew Dad would never look. In plain sight, behind a picture he couldn't stand to see. The documents told a damning story. Years of illegal activities, all connected to Marcus Sterling's business empire. But more than that, they revealed Catherine's methodical work to transform the sanctuary, her plans for its future, and most surprisingly, her detailed observations of Luna's extraordinary intelligence. Luna understands more than we know. 1. Note read. She doesn't just remember faces or kindness, she comprehends situations, intentions. Today she prevented a maintenance accident before it happened, as if she could sense the danger. If anything happens to me, she'll protect Emma. She promised me in her own way. Sarah watched as Emma absorbed her mother's words. Your mom knew, didn't she? She knew she was in danger. She was preparing, Emma said softly. Not just gathering evidence, but making sure I would be protected. She pulled out one final document. This one, a legal paper. Look at the date. She filed this the day before she died. It was a trust document, one that would ensure the sanctuary could never be sold or converted to another use. The conditions were clear. The property would be held in trust for the protection of its animals, with Emma as its future guardian. That's why Dad was so desperate, Emma realized. The pieces finally falling into place. Even after Mom died, he couldn't sell the sanctuary or change its purpose. And when I started remembering things, started showing the same love for the animals that Mom had, he saw history repeating itself. Sarah finished. But he didn't count on Luna keeping her promise all these years. Through the office window, they could see Luna in her enclosure, her great head turned toward the building as if she knew exactly what they'd discovered. In the morning light, she looked like a guardian spirit, ancient and wise. Emma clutched the photograph to her chest, her mother's smile and Luna's young, hopeful eyes merging with the present moment. Mom used to say that love leaves traces like footprints in wet cement. Even when the person is gone, the mark remains. She wheeled herself to the window, placing her hand against the glass. Luna's trunk rose in response, pointing toward the rising sun, toward the future that Catherine Sterling had fought and died to protect, the future that was now, finally, secure in her daughter's hands. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon as Detective Martinez stood before the sanctuary's board of directors in the main conference room. The emergency meeting had been called as soon as the full scope of Marcus Sterling's crimes began to emerge. Outside, the wind was picking up, carrying with it the promise of a storm that seemed to mirror the gravity of the moment. The evidence is overwhelming, Martinez said, her voice steady as she addressed the stunned board members. We've uncovered financial records dating back 15 years. Wildlife trafficking, money laundering, false insurance claims. And that's just the beginning. Thunder rolled in the distance as Emma sat beside James and Sarah, her mother's photograph clutched tightly in her lap. The board members, mostly old friends of her father's, couldn't meet her eyes. There's more, Martinez continued, laying out documents across the polished table. We found connections to illegal hunting operations across 3 continents. Many of the animals brought to this sanctuary weren't rescues at all. They were meant to be sold to private collectors or hunting reserves. But Catherine's protocols, one board member protested weakly. All those animals were documented as rescues because Catherine Sterling falsified the paperwork, Martinez explained. But her tone held admiration rather than condemnation. She created a paper trail that appeared to support her husband's story, while secretly documenting the truth. Every animal she rescued was actually being saved twice, first from the trafficking ring, then from the sanctuary's own owner. The wind rattled the windows as Emma spoke up, her voice small but clear. Mom always said documentation was a weapon of justice. She kept 2 sets of books, one to show Dad and one hidden with the real stories. James stepped forward, adding his own files to the detective's evidence. The hidden camera footage from last night confirms everything. Sterling wasn't just planning to harm Emma, he intended to sell the entire sanctuary to developers. The animals, he paused, his voice tight. The plans we found for Luna and the others, a particularly loud thunderclap made everyone jump. Through the conference room's wide windows, they could see the sanctuary's animals growing restless as the storm approached. All except Luna, who stood as still as a statue, facing the building where her fate was being discussed. Sarah, who had been reviewing years of veterinary records, stood up. There's something else you need to see. She projected a series of medical charts onto the wall. These are Luna's cognitive tests over the years. Catherine was documenting something extraordinary. Levels of intelligence and emotional comprehension that went far beyond normal parameters. She wasn't just studying Luna, Emma added softly. She was proving that animals like her deserved protection under different laws, not as property, but as sentient beings. Lightning split the sky as Martinez picked up the thread, which is why Sterling had to stop her. Catherine wasn't just threatening his illegal operations. She was about to establish legal precedent that would have changed how sanctuaries and zoos operated worldwide. The board members shifted uncomfortably as the implications sank in. Years of rubber stamping Marcus's decisions, of ignoring Catherine's concerns, of failing to question the sanctuary's darker operations. They were all complicit, even if only through their silence. What happens now? Someone finally asked. As if in answer, the storm broke in earnest. Rain lashed against the windows as Emma wheeled herself to face the board. I may be young, she said, her voice growing stronger, but thanks to Mom's legal preparations, I'm the sanctuary's rightful guardian. And I have some changes to propose. She pulled out her mother's trust document, the one they'd found behind the photograph. This sanctuary was meant to be a haven, not a business, not a tourist attraction, and certainly not a front for illegal trafficking. With the help of people who actually care about these animals, I intend to make it what Mom always dreamed it could be. Thunder punctuated her words as she continued. Anyone who wants to help rebuild is welcome to stay. Anyone who doesn't. She glanced meaningfully at her father's empty chair. The storm's fury seemed to ease slightly, as if nature itself was endorsing her words. Through the rain-streaked windows, they could see Luna had been joined by other elephants. All of them, facing the conference room, all of them standing strong against the wind and rain. There's one more thing, Detective Martinez said, pulling out a final document. We found this in Sterling's private safe. It's a confession, not from him, but from Catherine, written the night she died, documenting everything she'd discovered. Her last words were about Luna. In her, I see the future of this sanctuary. She understands what we're fighting for, and somehow, I know she'll find a way to make the truth known. As if hearing her name, Luna's trumpet cut through the storms. Noise, not a cry of distress or warning this time, but a sound of triumph. The truth had finally emerged, just as Catherine had predicted, just as Luna had worked all these years to ensure. The storm raged on, but within its fury, change was coming to Sterling Wildlife Haven. Real change at last. The police station's interview room felt smaller by the minute as Mike Peterson's confession spilled out in a torrent of guilt and fear. Detective Martinez sat across from him, recording every word, while James stood in the corner, his presence requested by both the police and Mike himself. I need to tell you about the other attempts, Mike said, his hands shaking as he wrapped them around a paper cup of cold coffee. Before the elephant incident, Mr. Sterling, he had been trying. For months. Martinez leaned forward. What other attempts? The brake lines on Emma's wheelchair. That was the first one. But Luna somehow knew. She blocked the path to the steep ramp that day. Wouldn't let Emma pass. Mike's voice cracked. Then there was the contaminated food. Sterling had me prepare Emma's lunch with something in it, but Luna knocked the tray over before she could eat it. Every time that elephant knew, James felt his stomach turn. How long were you working with him? 3 months. He said he'd help my sister with her medical bills. Mike's laugh was hollow. I told myself it was just accidents he was planning. Not murder. But deep down I knew. The way he talked. About Emma, about Catherine. Like they were problems to be solved. Martinez pushed a photograph across the table. The one of Catherine and young Luna. Tell us about the night Catherine died. Sterling's second escape attempt suggests he was worried about something specific being found. Mike stared at the photo, tears finally breaking free. There was a hidden room behind the old storage shed. Catherine found it 2 days before she died. It wasn't just documents in there, it was evidence. Videos, photos, ledgers detailing every illegal sale. And something else. Something worse. What could be worse than what we already know? James demanded. The breeding program, Mike whispered. Sterling wasn't just selling existing animals. He was breeding them specifically for hunting preserves. Raising them to trust humans, then selling them to places where rich clients could have an authentic hunting experience. Martinez's pen stopped moving. Are you saying Luna wasn't the only elephant Catherine rescued that day? There was a whole group being transported, but the others, Mike couldn't continue for a moment. Sterling had them redirected before Catherine could reach them. Sold them to hunting preserves across Asia. Luna was the only one she managed to save. James remembered Catherine's passion for the sanctuary, her desperate fight to change its purpose. She wasn't just trying to stop the trafficking. She was trying to save them from being murdered for sport. Sterling knew she had proof, Mike continued. The night she died, she had arranged to meet with international authorities. She had everything. Shipping manifests, buyer lists, video evidence. But after what happened at the cliffs, it all disappeared. Until now, Martinez said grimly, pulling out her phone. On the screen was a message from the forensics team. Hidden room found. Evidence intact. Mike's eyes widened. He never destroyed it all this time. Catherine was smarter than he knew. James said softly. She must have created a false hidden room. Let Sterling think he had found and destroyed everything. The real evidence was somewhere else all along. In plain sight, Martinez added, behind a photograph he couldn't bear to look at. Classic misdirection. Mike slumped in his chair. When I saw Emma with Luna today, the way that elephant protected her, I finally understood what Catherine had seen all those years ago, what she died trying to protect. He looked up at James, eyes desperate. There's something else you need to know. Sterling, he has one more plan. A failsafe, James felt. His blood run cold. What kind of failsafe? There's a timer, in the sanctuary's main power system, set to fail during the next major storm. When it goes, all the enclosure locks will release. All of them. Mike's voice shook. He said if he couldn't have the sanctuary, he'd make sure no one could. Called it survival of the fittest. Martinez was already on her radio, calling in teams to the sanctuary, but James was running for the door. The storm they'd been tracking was due to hit within hours. The biggest one of the season. James, Mike called after him. Luna, she knows about the failsafe. I saw her watching when Sterling installed it. She's been trying to warn everyone, but we didn't understand. As James raced to his car, thunder already rumbling overhead, he realized the truth that Catherine Sterling had discovered years ago. Luna wasn't just an elephant with unusual intelligence. She was a guardian, a protector, a being who understood far more than humans had given her credit for. And now, with another storm approaching and time running out, she might be the only one who could prevent Sterling's final act of revenge from destroying everything Catherine had died to protect. The sanctuary's underground tunnels were a maze of secrets that Catherine Sterling had built beneath her husband's nose. As James and Sarah led Detective Martinez through the narrow passages, their flashlight beams revealed filing cabinets, computer, servers, and walls covered in photographs and documents. The storm raged overhead, its fury muffled by layers of earth and concrete. Catherine created all of this? Martinez's voice echoed in the confined space. Right under the sanctuary? She called it her truth vault, Sarah explained, running her hand along a wall of photographs. Each one documented a different crime, Animals being loaded into unmarked trucks, money changing hands in shadows, Marcus Sterling shaking hands with known trafficking kingpins. Every time she discovered something, she stored a copy here, but the real genius was how she got the evidence. They reached a heavy door marked with a simple engraving. A trunk wrapped protectively around a heart. Inside, banks of old monitors flickered to life, revealing footage from every corner of the sanctuary, including angles that weren't covered by the official security system. Luna, James breathed, watching archived footage of the elephant carefully positioning herself to capture crucial moments on the hidden cameras. Catherine didn't just rescue her, she trained her to be a witness. Sarah nodded, pulling up files. On a dusty computer. Look at these behavior logs. Catherine documented everything. Luna's ability to understand complex situations, her memory, her problem-solving skills. But more than that, she taught Luna how to preserve evidence. The footage showed Luna using her trunk to adjust camera angles, creating distractions when Marcus was about to discover a hidden recording device, even delivering small packages to dead drops around the sanctuary. Year after year, the elephant had maintained her silent vigil, gathering proof of Marcus's crimes long after Catherine's death. Here, Martinez said suddenly, pointing to a folder labeled Final Protocol. Inside was a letter, dated the day before Catherine died, to whoever finds this. If you're reading these words, something has happened to me. The evidence contained here goes far beyond wildlife trafficking. Marcus isn't just selling animals. He's using the sanctuary to launder money for an international crime syndicate. The breeding program is their crown jewel, raising exotic animals in captivity, teaching them to trust humans, then selling them to private hunting reserves where wealthy clients pay millions to kill them. But Luna, she's special. She understands everything. She's been my partner in documenting all of this. If anything happens to me, watch her. She knows where every piece of evidence is hidden. She knows who can be trusted. Most importantly, she knows how to protect Emma. There's a failsafe in the sanctuary's power system. Not Marcus's destructive one, but mine. If the power fails, a secondary system will activate, keeping the most vulnerable animals safe while allowing the others to access protected areas we've prepared. Luna knows the routes. She's been practicing for years, preparing for a moment I pray will never come. To whoever finds this, trust Luna. She's not just an elephant. She's a guardian of truth, a protector of innocence, and the living heart of what this sanctuary was meant to be. With hope, Catherine Sterling, a tremendous crash of thunder made them all jump. Through the ceiling, they could hear the storm intensifying. How much time do we have? James asked urgently. Sarah checked her tablet, where a warning indicator was flashing red. The power system is already showing strain. Sterling's fail-safe could trigger any minute. We need to get to Emma, Martinez said. But James was already shaking his head. Luna will protect Emma. We need to secure this evidence before the power fails. He turned to Sarah. The secondary system Catherine mentioned, can you activate it manually? Sarah was already moving to a control panel hidden behind a filing cabinet. Yes, but she hesitated. According to these notes, activating it will lock down the evidence room. We'd be trapped down here until the storm passes. Do it, Martinez ordered, pulling out her phone to call for backup. I'll have teams standing by at all sanctuary exits. If any of Sterling's associates try to take advantage of the power failure, we'll be ready. As Sarah worked at the control panel, James watched the monitor showing the sanctuary grounds. Luna stood in the rain, positioned exactly between the main power station and Emma's location in the medical building. Other elephants had taken up positions around the sanctuary, just as they had during Sterling's attack. They weren't panicking. They were preparing. Catherine didn't just create a failsafe system, he realized aloud. She created a sanctuary within the sanctuary. And Luna's been maintaining it all these years, teaching the other animals, preparing for this moment. The lights flickered ominously. On the monitors, they could see the storm reaching its peak intensity. But instead of fear, James felt a strange sense of peace. Catherine Sterling had seen this coming. She had prepared. And in Luna, she had found not just an ally, but a successor, a guardian who would ensure her legacy lived on. As the first power surge hit, and the backup systems hummed to life, James thought he heard, above the storm's fury, the sound of Luna's trumpet. Not a cry of warning or distress, but a signal. The moment Catherine had prepared for had finally arrived. Now it was time to see if her plans and Luna's years of preparation would be enough to save everything they had fought, to protect The medical building's windows rattled as the storm reached its full fury. Emma sat in her wheelchair beside Luna's nightkeeper, Annie Chen, watching lightning illuminate the sanctuary grounds in stark flashes. Each burst of light revealed elephants, positioned strategically around the compound, standing firm against the wind and rain. "They're not random," Emma said softly, pressing her hand against the cold glass. "Look at their positions. They're guarding something." Annie nodded, her experienced eyes tracking the elephant's movements. "Luna's organized them. I've never seen anything like it." It's almost as if the lights went out. In the sudden darkness, emergency generators kicked in, casting everything in an eerie red glow. But something was wrong. Instead of the usual backup lighting pattern, different areas of the sanctuary were illuminating in what seemed like a predetermined sequence. Emma's tablet chimed with an incoming message. The sender field read, "Catherine Sterling, contingency protocol activated." "Mom," Emma whispered, her fingers trembling as she opened the message. A video began to play, showing Catherine Sterling in her office, looking worried but determined. The timestamp showed it was recorded the night before she died. "Emma, my darling, if you're seeing this, then everything your father built is finally crumbling. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you from the truth about him, but I could protect you from what he planned to do. Luna has been more than just your guardian. She's been my partner, helping me prepare for this moment." The video cut to footage of Luna learning complex behaviors, working with Catherine to set up hidden cameras, memorizing specific routes through the sanctuary. Then it showed something that made Emma gasp. Luna teaching these same behaviors to other elephants, passing on what she had learned. "The sanctuary has a secret network of safe zones and passages," Catherine's voice continued. "Luna knows them all. Trust her, Emma. She'll show you the way to the truth vault, where everything I discovered about your father's crimes is stored. But more importantly, she'll show you what this sanctuary can become, what it was always meant to be." "Tanteme." Video ended just as another power surge made the building shudder. Through the window, Emma saw Luna approaching through the rain, her massive form moving with purposeful speed. "She's coming to get us," Emma realized. She knows it's time. But before Luna could reach them, a figure staggered out of the darkness. Mike Peterson, his face bloody, his handler's uniform torn. "Emma?" he gasped, stumbling through the door. "Your father, he escaped again. He's here in the sanctuary. He's activated something in the power system. All the enclosures. They're going to—" Luna's trumpet cut through the storm, and Emma understood. This was what her mother had prepared for, what Luna had been training for all these years. "The animals," Annie said urgently. "If all the enclosures open at once—" "No," Emma interrupted, a lifetime of buried memories suddenly surfacing. "Mom didn't just create escape routes. She created safe zones. Look at where the elephants are." Standing. They're not just guarding random spots, they're protecting the entrances to underground shelters. As if confirming her words, Luna appeared at the medical building's side door, her trunk reaching for the handle with practiced ease. The door swung open, and despite the chaos of the storm, the enormous elephant moved with gentle precision to position herself beside Emma's wheelchair. "She wants us to follow her," Emma said. But Mike stepped forward, his face twisted with guilt and fear. "Emma, wait. There's something you need to know. Your father, he made me help him with everything. The accident that put you in the wheelchair, it wasn't an accident. I helped him weaken the viewing platform. I'm so sorry." Emma felt her heart constrict, but surprisingly no tears came. Perhaps she had always known deep down that her father's cruelty had no limits. Luna knew, didn't she? That's why she started following me everywhere after the accident. Mike nodded miserably. "She tried to stop us so many times. Every plan your father made, she found a way to prevent it. It was like she could read his mind, anticipate his every move." Another surge of power made the building's framework creak ominously. In the distance, they could hear the first mechanical sounds of enclosure doors beginning to fail. "We need to move," Annie insisted. "Whatever Catherine's failsafe is, whatever Luna's trying to show us, it has to be now." Emma looked up at Luna, seeing in those ancient eyes the same wisdom and love her mother had recognized so many years ago. "Mom said to trust you," she said softly. "She said you know the way to the truth." Luna's trunk gently wrapped around Emma's wheelchair handle, not pulling but offering guidance. Through the storm and darkness, other elephants were moving with similar purpose, leading staff members and animals toward the sanctuary's hidden safe zones. It was time to fulfill Catherine Sterling's legacy, time to reveal the full truth, time to transform Sterling Wildlife Haven into what it was always meant to be. As Emma allowed Luna to guide her wheelchair into the rain-lashed night, she heard her father's voice calling her name from somewhere in the darkness. But for the first time in her life, she felt no fear. With Luna beside her, she was finally ready to face whatever came next. Lightning split the sky as Luna guided Emma's wheelchair through the deluge, each flash illuminating the sanctuary in stark relief. Behind them, Annie and Mike followed, while around them, other elephants continued their coordinated movement, shepherding sanctuary staff and smaller animals toward the hidden safe zones. The wind carried a sound that made Emma's blood run cold, the mechanical grinding of enclosure doors failing, exactly as her father had planned. But something else was happening too. As each door opened, an elephant was already there, helping guide the animals inside toward Catherine's prepared shelters. Emma, Marcus Sterling's voice cut through the storm's fury. He appeared before them, rain-soaked and wild-eyed, blocking the path to the nearest safe zone entrance. "Stop right there." Luna's trunk tightened protectively around Emma's wheelchair handle, but didn't retreat. Behind Marcus, Emma could see the sanctuary's main power station, its warning lights flashing erratically through the rain. "It's over." "Dad?" Emma called out, her voice stronger than she felt. "We found Mom's evidence vault. The police have everything." Marcus's laugh was barely sane. "Evidence? You think I care about evidence now?" He gestured wildly at the chaos around them. "Look at this. Nature versus civilization. That's what your mother never understood. You can't protect these animals forever. They're meant to be used, controlled. Like you tried to control Mom. Like you tried to control me." Emma felt years of suppressed anger rising in her chest. "Luna knew what you were all along. That's why she watched you. That's why she protected me. That elephant." Marcus spat the word. Like a curse ruined everything. Catherine's precious Luna, always interfering, always watching. "Do you know how many plans she spoiled, how many times she stopped me from—" He caught himself, but Emma finished for him. "From killing me? Like you killed Mom?" Lightning flashed. Again, and in its stark light, Emma saw something break in her father's eyes. The last vestiges of his polished facade crumbled away, revealing the monster that had always lurked beneath. "You're just like her," he snarled, taking a step forward. "Weak, sentimental, caring more about these beasts than your own family's legacy." Luna's trumpet of warning was nearly lost in a deafening crack of thunder. Through the curtain of rain, Emma saw other elephants moving to surround them, forming a protective circle. But Marcus didn't seem to notice or care. "I gave you every chance," he continued, his voice rising hysterically. "The viewing platform was supposed to solve everything. When that failed, I tried to make it look natural. Accidents, illness. But that damn elephant," he pointed accusingly at Luna. "She knew. Somehow she always knew. Because Mom taught her to protect me," Emma said, understanding flooding through her. "All those years, while you were planning how to hurt me, Mom was teaching Luna how to keep me safe." "Catherine," Marcus spat. "Always Catherine and her precious animals. She was going to ruin everything. Expose my business partners, destroy our reputation. She had to be stopped. So you pushed her off the cliff." Emma's voice was surprisingly calm now. "But you didn't know I saw everything. You didn't know Luna was watching too." Marcus's hand moved to his jacket, pulling out something that glinted metallically in the lightning. "And now history repeats itself. Like mother, like daughter. Always in the way, always trying to ruin everything I've built." Several things happened at once. Marcus lunged forward, the gun in his hand aimed not at Emma but at Luna. Mike shouted, a warning. Annie tried to push Emma's wheelchair back, but Luna moved faster than any of them. Her trunk swept Emma's wheelchair smoothly aside, while simultaneously knocking the gun from Marcus's grip. The weapon disappeared into a puddle as Luna positioned herself between Emma and her father. Around them, the other elephants tightened their circle. "No!" Marcus screamed, his composure completely shattered. He grabbed for the wheelchair, but Luna's trunk knocked him back again, gentle but immovable. "I won't let you ruin everything, not again." He turned and ran toward the power station, perhaps hoping to trigger some final catastrophe. But he had forgotten about Catherine's preparations, about Luna's years of learning the sanctuary's secrets. As Marcus reached for the power station's control panel, the ground beneath his feet suddenly gave way, a hidden entrance to one of Catherine's underground passages, its mechanism triggered by the weight of his step. He disappeared from view with a shocked cry, falling into a containment area that Catherine had prepared for just such an emergency. Through the rain, Emma could hear police sirens approaching. The storm was beginning to ease, and with it, the sanctuary's chaos was subsiding. All around them, elephants stood guard over groups of safely sheltered animals. Exactly as Catherine had planned. Exactly as Luna had prepared them for. Emma reached up to touch Luna's trunk, feeling the gentle strength that had protected her for so long. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew everything all along. You were just waiting for the right moment to help me understand." Luna's rumble of acknowledgement vibrated through the rain-soaked air. In the distance, dawn was breaking through the storm clouds, casting its first pale light over Sterling Wildlife Haven. But it wasn't Sterling's haven anymore. It was Catherine's vision, Emma's inheritance, and Luna's sacred trust. The truth had finally come to light, just as Catherine had known it would, protected and preserved by an elephant who understood far more than anyone had ever suspected. Anyone except a mother who had loved her daughter enough to entrust her safety to nature's most intelligent guardian. Dawn broke over the sanctuary, painting the rain-washed world in shades of gold. Police officers swarmed the grounds, documenting evidence and securing the scene. At the containment pit where Marcus Sterling had fallen, Detective Martinez supervised his extraction, her face grim as she read him his rights. The pit, they discovered, was lined with thick protective padding, Catherine's final mercy, ensuring that even in his capture, her husband wouldn't be seriously harmed. It was a kindness he had never shown to others, and one that seemed to break something final in him as the officers led him away. "You don't understand," he kept muttering, his once immaculate suit now muddied and torn. "The elephant, she planned this. They all planned this." Martinez shared a knowing look with Emma, who sat with Luna's trunk still protectively draped across her shoulders. They both understood the irony. In his final moments of freedom, Marcus Sterling had stumbled upon a truth he had denied for years, the intelligence and agency of the very creatures he had sought to exploit. "We found everything in the underground vault," Martinez told Emma. "Your mother's documentation is incredible. She didn't just record Marcus's crimes, she created an entire case for animal intelligence and rights. The evidence about Luna alone," she shook her head in amazement. "It's going to change how sanctuaries operate worldwide." Emma watched as sanctuary staff emerged from the safe zones, leading groups of animals back to their enclosures. But something was different now. The barriers between species seemed less rigid. The hierarchy her father had enforced crumbling in the face of the night's revelations. "Look at them," Sarah said softly, joining them. "The elephants are still helping, still protecting, just like Luna taught them." Indeed, each elephant seemed to have taken responsibility for certain areas and animals, guiding them with a gentleness that belied their massive size. It was Catherine's vision made real. Not a prison of cages and barriers, but a true haven, where protection flowed naturally from understanding. A commotion near the police cars drew their attention. Marcus, being led to a waiting vehicle, had caught sight of Emma and Luna. His face contorted with a final burst of rage. "You think this is over?" he shouted. "My associates won't let this stand. The hunting reserves, the private collectors. They have too much invested. They'll come for their property." Luna's trumpet cut through his tirade, echoed by every elephant in the sanctuary. The sound carried no fury, no vengeance, only a clear declaration. This land and these animals were under protection, not as property, but as beings with their own right to safety and freedom. Detective Martinez smiled grimly as she closed the car door on Marcus's continuing protests. "He doesn't realize, does he? His associates are already being rounded up across 3 continents. Catherine's evidence vault didn't just document his crimes, it exposed an entire international network." Emma felt tears rolling down her cheeks, but they were different from any she'd shed before. "Mom knew," she whispered. "She knew that stopping Dad wasn't enough. She had to stop the whole system, and she knew she'd need help to do it," Sarah added, watching Luna tenderly wipe Emma's tears with her trunk. She found that help in the most unexpected place. In an elephant with the wisdom to understand human corruption and the patience to wait years for justice. James approached, carrying a stack of files from the vault. "You need to see this, Emma. Your mother left detailed plans for transforming the sanctuary, not just protecting animals from abuse, but studying them, understanding them. Everything that's happened here, everything Luna's shown us about elephant intelligence and emotional capacity. Catherine wanted it documented, studied, shared with the world. Through the morning mist, they could see police photographers documenting the hidden safe zones, the underground passages, the sophisticated network of protection that Catherine Sterling had built beneath her husband's corrupt empire. But more importantly, they were recording something else. The continued coordinated actions of the elephants, proving beyond doubt that these beings were far more than mere property to be bought and sold. "Mr. Sterling's lawyer is here," an officer reported. "He's talking about temporary insanity, claiming his client's rantings about intelligent elephants plotting against him prove he's having a breakdown." Emma couldn't help but laugh, even as Luna's trunk tightened protectively around her shoulders. "He still doesn't get it, does he? The truth isn't that the elephants plotted against him. The truth is that they protected us from him, just like they were taught to do." Martinez nodded thoughtfully. "Your mother's evidence combined with what we've all witnessed here, it's going to be impossible to maintain the legal fiction that these animals are simply property. This case is going to set precedents." As if understanding the significance of the moment, Luna raised her trunk in another trumpet call. This time the sound carried triumph and hope, not just for the sanctuary's animals but for every creature still trapped in the corrupt system Marcus Sterling had helped build. The sun rose higher, drying the last traces of the storm. In its light, Sterling Wildlife Haven seemed transformed. The barriers that had once signified human control now stood as boundaries of protection. The cameras that had documented crimes would now record discoveries. And at the heart of it all stood Luna, Catherine Sterling's most trusted ally, Emma's lifelong protector, and living proof that true justice sometimes comes on silent feet and gentle trunks waiting patiently for its moment to emerge. The days following Marcus Sterling's arrest brought waves of change to the sanctuary. News vans lined the entrance gates, their reporters eager to cover what was being called the elephant's justice, a story that captured the world's imagination. But inside the sanctuary's grounds, a more personal transformation was taking place. Emma sat in her mother's old office, now cleared of police tape and evidence markers. Luna's watchful eye was visible through the window, the elephant never straying, far from her charge. On the desk lay stacks of documents, Catherine's plans, legal papers, and most importantly, her private journals. "I think you should read this," Sarah said softly, placing a leather-bound notebook in front of Emma. "Your mother wrote it the day she first discovered Luna's true capabilities." Emma opened the journal with trembling hands, her mother's familiar handwriting bringing fresh tears to her eyes. "Today, Luna did something extraordinary. While examining her for signs of trauma from her rescue, I noticed she was trying to communicate, not just through normal elephant vocalizations, but through deliberate, repeated actions. She kept pointing her trunk at my camera, then at the shipping container she'd been rescued from. When I finally understood and photographed the container's markings, she became agitated until I also documented the hidden compartments inside. She wasn't just showing gratitude for her rescue. She was helping me gather evidence. The implications are staggering. We've always known elephants are intelligent, emotional beings, but this level of understanding, of human corruption, of the need for documentation, of the very concept of evidence, it changes everything. Marcus would say I'm being fanciful, seeing what I want to see, but I know what I witnessed. Luna doesn't just understand. She wants to help, to protect, and perhaps most incredibly, to teach others to do the same. Emma looked up at Luna, who had positioned herself perfectly in the window's frame. "She's still teaching, isn't she?" "Even now?" Sarah nodded, gesturing to where other elephants could be seen guiding sanctuary staff through new safety protocols. "Your mother's journals document years of observations. Luna didn't just learn from Catherine. She adapted those lessons, created her own methods of teaching other elephants. The network of protection we saw during the storm, that was Luna's innovation, building on what Catherine started." A knock at the door announced Detective Martinez's arrival. She carried a thick file stamped with official seals. "The preliminary hearings are done," she said without preamble. "Your father's assets have been frozen, and the court has appointed you as the sanctuary's legal guardian, with a board of trustees to assist until you're of age." Emma wheeled herself to the window, feeling Luna's trunk gently touch her shoulder through the open pane. "And the other sanctuaries, the ones connected to Dad's network, being investigated as we speak? Your mother's evidence has triggered the largest wildlife trafficking investigation in history." Martinez's voice softened. "But there's something else. Something about Luna, specifically." She placed a document on the desk, a legal petition filed by Catherine years ago, never submitted. "Your mother was working to have Luna classified as a non-human person under the law. The evidence she gathered, combined with what we all witnessed during the storm. "Emma, we can file this now, make it real." Emma felt her heart skip a beat. "Legal personhood for an elephant? Not just any elephant," Sarah interjected. "One who has demonstrated extraordinary intelligence, emotional capacity, and most importantly, a clear understanding of human legal and moral concepts." The documentation is overwhelming. Through the window, Luna's deep brown eye met Emma's gaze. In it, she saw the same wisdom her mother had recognized all those years ago. Not just animal intelligence, but something deeper. An understanding that transcended species, that spoke to fundamental truths about justice, protection, and love. "There will be opposition," Martinez warned. "Your father's associates, the hunting reserves, anyone who profits from treating animals as property, they'll fight this." Emma's hand found Luna's trunk, drawing strength from the gentle touch. "Let them fight. Mom didn't back down, and neither will we. Luna didn't protect me all these years just for us to give up now." As if in response, Luna's trunk lifted in a gentle salute, and a soft rumble echoed through the office. Around the sanctuary, other elephants took up the sound. Not their usual trumpeting, but something softer, more melodic. A song of change, of hope, of new beginnings. "Listen," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide. "They're singing like they did when Catherine was here. We haven't heard this since the night she died," Emma finished, tears flowing freely now. "Luna taught them this too, didn't she? How to remember, how to honor, how to heal." The song continued, carrying across the sanctuary's grounds. Staff members stopped their work to listen. Visitors fell silent in awe, and even the media crews at the gates lowered their cameras, sensing they were witnessing something beyond their ability to capture. In that moment, as the elephant's song washed over them, Emma finally understood the full scope of her inheritance. Not just a sanctuary, not just her mother's legacy, but a mission to protect, to understand, and to show the world that true justice knows no species barrier. That love in its purest form can teach even humans about the meaning of humanity. 1 month after Marcus Sterling's arrest, Sterling Wildlife Haven hummed with a new kind of energy. Gone were the tourist-focused attractions and performance areas that had once dominated the sanctuary. In their place, observation platforms and research stations arose, designed with both human and animal comfort in mind. Emma, surrounded by blueprints and renovation plans in the sanctuary's main conference room, watched through the window as Luna conducted what the staff had come to call morning rounds. The old elephant moved from enclosure to enclosure, checking on other animals, guiding new rescues, and supervising the sanctuary's transformed security protocols. "The lawyers still can't quite believe these footage archives," James said, entering with a stack of legal documents. "Every time they think they've found all of your mother's hidden cameras, Luna leads us to another one. It's like she waited until exactly the right moment to reveal each piece of evidence." Emma smiled, remembering the latest discovery, a waterproof camera hidden in Luna's favorite bathing pool, containing years of footage documenting the sanctuary's secret operations. "Mom always said timing was everything in building a case. Looks like Luna learned that lesson well." Sarah burst into the room, her face alight with excitement. "Emma, you need to see this. The new researchers just documented something extraordinary. In the rehabilitation area, they followed her to the sanctuary's newest addition, a specialized care center for rescued animals. Through the observation window, they watched as Luna worked with a recently arrived elephant calf, a victim of the same trafficking network that had once imprisoned her. The young elephant was traumatized, refusing to eat or interact with humans. But Luna's approach was unlike anything in traditional rehabilitation protocols. They watched in amazement as she demonstrated to the calf how to check food for safety, how to identify trustworthy humans, and, most incredibly, how to use the sanctuary's built-in safety features. "She's teaching them," Emma whispered, her eyes wide. "Not just survival skills, but everything she learned from Mom. How to document, how to protect, how to trust again. The implications for animal rehabilitation are revolutionary," Sarah said, scribbling notes furiously. "Luna's not just passing on survival instincts. She's teaching complex learned behaviors, adaptation strategies, even elements of human interaction that she developed with your mother." A gentle tap on the window drew their attention. Luna had approached with the calf, who was now showing the first signs of trust, reaching out tentatively with its trunk toward Emma's wheelchair. "The university research team arrives next week," James reminded them. "What Luna's doing here, It could change everything we think we know about animal intelligence and emotional capacity. Emma wheeled closer to the window, placing her hand against the glass where the calf's trunk touched. That's what Mom wanted all along, wasn't it? Not just to protect them, but to help us understand them. To show us they were never just animals to be owned or controlled. Through the window, they could see other sanctuary residents going about their day, but differently than before. The hierarchical structure Marcus had enforced was gone, replaced by something more organic, more natural. Animals moved freely within their designated areas, with elephants acting as gentle guardians, maintaining order through understanding rather than force. The legal team called this morning, James said softly. The personhood petition for Luna. It's gaining support. Scientists, ethicists, animal rights advocates. They're all rallying behind it. Your mother's evidence combined with what Luna's demonstrating now. It's not just about Luna anymore, Emma interjected, watching as the elephant matriarch guided the calf through trust-building exercises. It's about recognizing what these beings are capable of, what they can teach us about protection, about healing, about justice. Sarah nodded, reviewing her notes. The new sanctuary model is already drawing attention. 3 other facilities have requested our protocols, especially after seeing how the elephants maintained order during the storm. They're calling it the Sterling method, though I think Luna's legacy might be more accurate. Emma felt tears welling up, but they were tears of pride and purpose now. Mom knew this day would come. That's why she documented everything, why she trained Luna so carefully. She was building a foundation for change. Through the window, Luna's eyes met Emma's, wise, knowing, full of the same determination that had driven Catherine Sterling to fight for a better world. The old elephant raised her trunk in what had become a familiar salute, echoed now by the young calf beside her. You know what this means, James said quietly. The opposition won't stop. Your father's associates, the hunting reserves, the entire industry that profits from treating animals as commodities. They'll fight these changes every step of the way. Emma's hands gripped her wheelchair's arms with new strength. Let them come. Mom showed us the way. Luna taught us how to protect what matters, and I'm ready to continue their work. As if in response to her words, Luna began to teach the calf another lesson. How to use the sanctuary's warning system, how to guide others to safety, how to stand guard over those who needed protection. The cycle continuing, wisdom passing from one generation to the next, just as Catherine had envisioned, just as Luna had promised to uphold. 6 months after Marcus Sterling's conviction, Emma sat beneath the sprawling oak tree where her mother had often worked, watching as a documentary crew filmed Luna training a new group of rescued elephants. The sanctuary had become a beacon of hope in the wildlife protection community, its methods spreading far beyond its borders. The International Wildlife Protection Coalition is on line 1, Annie called from the office window. They want to know if you'll keynote their conference next month. Apparently, the Luna Protocol is revolutionizing rescue operations worldwide. Emma smiled, remembering how her mother had always insisted that change would come from sharing knowledge, not keeping secrets. On her tablet, she reviewed the latest statistics. 23 trafficking operations shut down, 47 hunting reserves closed, and hundreds of animals rescued, all using the methods Luna had helped develop. They're calling her the elephant who changed the law, Sarah said, joining Emma under the tree. She carried a copy of the latest scientific journal, its cover featuring a striking photo of Luna teaching young elephants how to use the sanctuary's protection systems. The personhood ruling is already having ripple effects. 3 more sanctuaries have filed similar petitions for their resident elephants. Luna paused in her training session, turning to acknowledge their conversation with a gentle rumble. The cameras swiveled to capture the moment. The wise old matriarch and the young sanctuary director, carrying forward Catherine Sterling's vision of a world where animals were understood, not exploited. Mom's last journal entry, Emma said softly, pulling out the worn leather notebook she always kept close. I think she knew somehow what Luna would help us achieve. She read aloud. What we've discovered here goes beyond animal intelligence or emotional capacity. Luna has shown us that the barriers between species are far more permeable than we imagined. She doesn't just understand human concepts of justice and protection. She's adapted them, improved them, created her own methods of teaching and preserving them. If anything happens to me, I know Luna will find a way to continue our work. She understands that change doesn't come from one person or one moment, but from building networks of protection, from teaching others to carry the knowledge forward. In her, I see the future of not just this sanctuary, but of how humans and animals might one day truly understand each other. As if responding to Catherine's words, Luna approached the oak tree, followed by her students. The younger elephants had learned quickly under her tutelage, already showing signs of the same protective instincts that made Luna legendary, but more than that, they were developing their own innovations, building on what Luna taught them. The research team documented something remarkable yesterday. Sarah continued, pulling up footage on her tablet. The new elephants aren't just copying Luna's methods, they're adapting them for other species. Watch this. The video showed a young elephant demonstrating to a newly rescued giraffe how to use the sanctuary's warning signals. The elephant had modified Luna's technique, adjusting it for the giraffe's different physical capabilities while maintaining the core protective principle. It's exactly what Mom predicted, Emma said, her voice thick with emotion. They're not just learning, they're teaching each other, evolving the methods, making them better. A commotion at the sanctuary gates drew their attention. Another rescue was arriving, this time a group of elephants saved from a closing hunting reserve. Luna immediately moved toward the entrance, her students falling into formation behind her. They had done this dozens of times now, helping traumatized newcomers adjust to life in true freedom. The prosecution team called this morning. Sarah said as they watched Luna welcome the new arrivals. Your father's appeals have all been denied. His network is completely dismantled. But more importantly, the evidence we gathered has led to new international protection laws. They're calling it the Sterling Luna Amendment, mandatory recognition of advanced animal intelligence in wildlife protection cases. Emma felt tears well up as she watched Luna gentle guide the frightened newcomers toward the rehabilitation area. She never gave up, she whispered. All those years watching, waiting, protecting, she knew this day would come, that eventually we'd all understand what Mom saw in her. The documentary crew had shifted their cameras to capture the new arrivals, but Emma noticed they kept returning to Luna, to the wise eyes that had seen so much, to the gentle strength that had protected so many. In the old elephant's careful movements, Emma saw her mother's legacy living on. The patience to wait for justice, the wisdom to build networks of protection, and the understanding that true change comes not from force, but from teaching others to carry the light forward. As the sun began to set over Sterling Wildlife Haven, Luna's trumpet echoed across the grounds, not a warning this time, but a celebration. One by one, elephants across the sanctuary joined in, their voices rising in the song that Catherine had first documented years ago. But now there were new notes, new harmonies added by the younger generation. The melody evolved, just as Luna's teachings had evolved, carrying hope for a future where understanding bridged the gap between species, where protection grew from wisdom shared, where love proved stronger than greed. 1 year to the day after Marcus Sterling's final attempt to destroy the sanctuary, Emma wheeled herself along the newly completed memorial path. The morning sun cast long shadows through the mist, illuminating plaques that told the story of Sterling Wildlife Haven's transformation. Behind her, Luna walked with measured steps, their daily ritual of remembrance and renewal. They paused at the path's center, where a life-sized bronze statue stood, Catherine Sterling and a young Luna, captured in the moment they first met. The inscription read, "To those who teach us that love knows no species barrier, your wisdom lights the way." Hard to believe how much has changed in a year, James said, joining them with the morning's reports. The International Wildlife Court officially opens next week. They want Luna to be there, the first non-human whose testimony helped create new international law. Emma smiled, watching as Luna gently touched the statue with her trunk. Mom would have loved that. Her evidence vault and Luna's wisdom, working together to change the world. Around them, the sanctuary hummed with morning activity. Through the mist, they could see elephants conducting their rounds, teaching newer arrivals, maintaining the careful balance that had made Sterling Wildlife Haven a model for sanctuaries worldwide. But it wasn't just the elephants anymore. Other species had begun showing signs of adopting and adapting Luna's protective behaviors. The university research team's latest findings are remarkable. Sarah approached, tablet in hand. They're calling it cross-species cultural transmission. Luna's methods aren't just being passed between elephants anymore. They're spreading through the entire sanctuary community. As if to demonstrate, they watched a young giraffe use its long neck to adjust a security camera, just as they had seen Luna do countless times. Nearby, A group of rescued chimpanzees had organized their own monitoring system, adapted from Luna's teachings. 7 new sanctuaries opening this month, James added, reviewing his notes. All using the Luna protocol. All staffed by people we've trained here. The network keeps growing. Emma reached up to touch Luna's trunk, drawing strength from the gentle contact. That's what Mom meant in her final journal entry, about change coming not from one moment or one place, but from building networks of protection. A school bus pulled up to the sanctuary's education center, another new addition. Children pressed their faces against the windows, eager for their first glimpse of the legendary Luna and her students. The sanctuary had become more than a haven. It was a place of learning, of understanding, of bridging the gap between species. "Miss Emma," a young voice called out. Tommy, a regular visitor who shared Emma's experience of being wheelchair-bound, waved excitedly. "Did Luna catch any bad guys this week?" Emma laughed, warmed by the children's enthusiasm. Luna had become something of a folk hero among their young visitors, her story inspiring a new generation to see animals differently. "Not this week, Tommy, but she's been teaching the new babies how to use the sanctuary's safety systems." As if on cue, Luna turned toward the nursery area where her newest students waited. But before she left, she performed what had become her morning ritual. A gentle salute with her trunk, first to Catherine's statue, then to Emma, a gesture of continuing promise of protection passed down through generations. "The legal team sent over the final paperwork," Sarah said softly, watching Luna move away. "The Sterling name is officially gone from all sanctuary documents. From now on, it's just the haven." Emma felt tears well up, happy tears, healing tears. No more Sterling silver legacy, no more wealthy family empire, just what Mom always wanted. A true haven, where love and protection matter more than profit or prestige. Through the morning mist, they could see Luna beginning her lessons with the young elephants, but today something was different. The children from the bus, including Tommy in his wheelchair, were being allowed to watch from a safe distance, the first step in a new program integrating human education with animal rehabilitation. "Your mother wrote something in her last journal entry," Sarah said, her voice gentle. "Something we only found recently hidden in the binding. I think you should see it." She handed Emma a small folded paper. On it, in Catherine's familiar handwriting, was a message that brought fresh tears to Emma's eyes. "To my daughter and my dearest Luna, you are the proof of what I've always believed, that love is the most powerful force for change in this world. One sees it in the way Luna protected Emma all these years, in the way she taught others to protect, in the way she waited patiently for truth to emerge. Some might call it animal instinct, but I know better. It's love, pure and simple. And love, my darlings, knows no boundaries." As the morning mist began to lift, Emma watched Luna with her students, both animal and human now. The old elephant moved with the same grace and purpose she had shown all those years ago, when she first promised a dying mother to protect her child, but now she protected so much more. A legacy, a future, a hope for understanding between species. The haven hummed with life, with learning, with love. In every corner, Catherine Sterling's vision lived on. In the rescued animals finding safety, in the children learning compassion, in the researchers documenting new wonders every day. But most of all, it lived in the bond between a girl and an elephant, proof that some connections transcend all barriers, that some promises last beyond lifetimes, that some loves change the world. "Let's go, my white angel," Emma whispered, using her mother's old term of endearment for Luna. Together they moved toward the nursery, toward the future, their shadows merging in the morning sun, guardian and protector, legacy and promise. Love made manifest in the most unexpected of partnerships. The story of Sterling Wildlife Haven was over, but the story of the haven, and the lessons Luna taught about love's power to protect and transform, was just beginning.